how do we know when a bar feels right? And there's like a lot of kind of things with that, like music, lighting, cleanliness. These are all like important factors. But one of the main things for me is preparing. So preparing for your shift, whether that's making sure that you've got, like you've got your stock order in, or you've got all your fruit, but also making sure you know who's coming into the bar, whether it's like a repeat guest, and just being like really kind of organized about that. I think that's super important.
Oh, absolutely. I know one of the things that I always look for, in a bar for it feeling right for me is acknowledgement. And something as simple as acknowledgement, just walking in. It could be a completely busy bar. It could be, they could either be in the weeds or just super busy, and just a smile and a nod, just acknowledging that I've walked in and that they'll be right with me. I'll wait an extra 30 minutes for something that I know is going to be amazing, instead of, someone pretending that you're not there. It can make or break, just walking into a bar. But I think that, and how we treat each other and how we move forward, I think we can implement those same things into some of the things we change about the future and how we do this. And one of the examples I wanted to share with everyone too is, I was talking about the difference between service and hospitality. And about 7-8 years ago, I was working a wedding, and it was, everything had shown up. We had all the spirits, we had the beer, the wine, but we didn't have any of the mixers or any of the, the small components that we needed to move forward with that. So, some folks might say, oh, we don't have the tools or the things we need to do our job how we planned on it. And this is someone's special day, and so we kind of thought creatively on our feet. And this was before we, down the road started, beer cocktails were a thing, or mixing wine and champagne outside of the French 75 was a thing, And so we started to make different things. And one of the things we had come up with was a Manhattan made from, an oaky wine and some chocolate bitters that we had in a bar bag. And we really, changed the whole path of how that could have gone. It could have gone completely wrong. And we just thought on our feet and made it happen. And I think being able to do that is kind of like how life is, it's been a very crazy time. That how we think on our feet and how we move forward with all that is going to be the deciding factor on how we keep, pushing this industry further. Do you have any examples of some good hospitality on your side, or anything that you've experienced?
Yeah, I guess one of the training manuals when we opened the hotel in New York, they were speaking about examples that they'd used in kind of other restaurants, and one of the ones was when the host took a lady's jacket for her coming in for dinner. They noticed that one of the buttons was come off the jacket, and the host, during the course of the guest's experience, the host sewed the button back onto the jacket, and that they didn't mention anything to the guest. They just saw it and they were like, this is an opportunity that I can kind of help. And I always thought that was kind of nice. You're not being hospitable so that you can tell the world about it. You're being hospitable so that the guest has like a better experience.
Anytime I go out into the trade, it's usually not the best time. Usually I finished a full day of seminars and then I decide to go and run around with you or whomever to bug some of these bartenders, and never do they say, I'm too busy, or, it's rush hour. They always take the time to get to know me, to understand why I'm in market, to talk about their journey, make me some drinks. They're pretty open to figuring out what I like, just talking about the Bulleit, the bourbon and its journey. And it really is a good opportunity for me to connect with the consumers. And whenever we have any visitors, here in Shelbyville, our visitor center team, to me, is like the epitome of hospitality. The proof team, they go above and beyond any time to make you feel like you're at home. And I think that's what keeps people coming back to the brand each time. And just like with any of your bars, that's why people return. And like you said, they'll wait that few minutes because you've acknowledged them. You've made them feel like they are seen. And that's really, it goes a long way. It's something so simple, just being visible to people, but it goes a long way.
I think you're absolutely right, which it's funny you said that, because it definitely brings us into what we're about to talk about, empathy and VIP treatment. And empathy alone, I think, when we're out there, when we're doing those things and connecting with people, I think empathy plays a huge part in that, it's not sympathy, it's not just feeling for them, it's feeling with them. And though you may not understand how they feel completely, I think putting yourself in their shoes and knowing, what you would want someone to, or how you would want someone to treat you or be there for you, whether it's just listening or doing some small thing or gesture to make them feel more comfortable in that, I think it really does round out that experience. And I know, Aiden, you wanted to talk a little bit about the VIP treatment side of things.
Yeah, I think making our guests feel like they are VIPs, and I think kind of post-COVID, that's super important. We've got an opportunity to really cultivate the guest experience, and that can be like small things, like if it's their birthday, like with a candle, but also just like a guest goes out for a cigarette, put their martini in the freezer, keep it nice and cold for them, and it'll really kind of change the perspective on you. It shows that you're paying attention to them, which is what you kind of want as a guest. Another nice example is if someone has like a kind of water bottle, asking if they want it filled to go. That's like a nice opportunity for them to kind of hydrate before they move on to their next step. The Bartender's Handshake has been something that we have, we've known for a while, and it's this kind of like secret thing that bartenders have with bartenders or their close friends. And I guess maybe looking at what is a bartender handshake, what's it been, but what can it be now? I know that my bar manager doesn't want me to be handing out a ton of stuff for free. It doesn't make sense for the business, especially after COVID. So do you have any examples of?
Yeah, there's a lot of different things. I think when it comes to that, like you said, the things in the past, whether it was a cheeky or a head nod or an understanding of how a shift may have been, or a regular that comes in and you give them a beer or whatever it may be. Like you said, the bottom line is going to be more important now than ever. One of the few things that one of the things that I've done in the past, and it can be, like you said, knowledge as well, is sharing or understanding someone's palate, or diving deep into the things that they like and tailoring that experience as far as a pairing or something they may like. Someone could come in and say that they like a Pilsner and or that they like a Negroni or a Boulevardier with in the whiskey aspect, and that can hint towards they like something bitter. And when it comes to especially with Bulleit and beer, we do a lot with the pairings and things like that, and finding out that they like a Boulevardier and something bitter. I think now I know that they might like an IPA, which they may not have tried before, and you show them that route, and all of a sudden they found something new that they love and like, and they can share that with other people, or that's an experience that are like, oh, they really understood what I liked, and they took the extra little bit of time to find that out, and then I now have something new that I can take with me. I think that alone is kind of like a handshake in a sense of getting to know somebody and really tailoring it to how they feel about the future of how they interact with a bartender or anybody else as well.
With Bartender's Handshake, that might be like a little like snack here or there. And our snacks, like whether it's like a bag of chips or something like a little bit more extravagant, it's a really cool way to pair both with the product, but also pair with the whiskey as well. Like you see some incredible kind of flavor combinations. And I think it's a good way because it's cost effective. And actually, I'm going to do an example of like a nice bar snack that you can pair with Bulleit bourbon in a couple of minutes.
That's awesome. Yeah, one of the cool things that I've actually been able to use at other events as well is we do a Bulleit cold fashion, and one of the garnishes that we used was a barrel strength chocolate infused covered espresso bean. And just taking those little tiny things and implementing them with your cocktails, it was fun too, because about 60% of the conversations that day were inspired out of that little thing, that little touch. We could have gone without it, but it really did make a difference. And when it comes to elevating those flavor combinations, one of the other cocktails I was going to mention was our Bulleit Rye Thai. And it's pretty much a spin on a rum cocktail, Mai Tai, which I like to think makes you feel like you're on vacation, or like you can let your hair down. Maybe not in my case, but just in general. But yeah, we added whiskey and a little bit of Amaro, kept the orgeat and all that in the fresh lime juice, but it really was kind of an illusion for folks because they got to try something they may not have tried before, but it turned a whiskey cocktail into something that that you felt like you were on vacation, and people loved it. But yeah, I think pushing the envelope with those different things, whether it be regions or styles or the way we serve things, I think is a huge component in that as well.
I guess today I wanted to make a drink that kind of embodies like a little bit about what we've spoken about, pairing flavors to complement whiskey. We're coming into summer, so making something that's going to be like nice, refreshing, and then also serving it with a bar snack. So I did a bit of research, and I think one of a summer drink that sounded super cool was a switchel, which was vinegar with fruit and some sweetener and then lengthened with soda water. So that's kind of what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to move the camera so you can see my workspace a little bit better. Is that good?
Absolutely.
Amazing. So first of all, this is an apple cider vinegar. And I'm just going to pour a bar spoon of that into the glass. I like the drinks to be like super bright and fresh and crisp. So if that's too much, you can always kind of tailor that back. This here, peaches have just come into season. So I got some fresh peaches. I blended it with a little bit of tea. I've done a lot of tea research recently. We've got a seminar on Wednesday as well. So blended it with some rooibos tea, some acids and some maple syrup. So that's going to be a half ounce. And then I'm going to do 1.5 ounces of Bulleit bourbon. I guess for me and Eboni, I don't know if you've had experience, but for me, peaches and Bulleit is just like a really beautiful combination. Like bacon spices and the bourbon work so well together, right?
I love peaches with Bulleit.
I'll send you the recipe. And then I'm just going to top this up with ice. This is ice from my freezer, so bear with me. And then lengthen it with a nice quality ginger ale.
Looks delicious.
Yeah, it's nice. And then I'm just going to give it a quick wee stir with my spoon, some orange, and some thyme to finish. Now, the bubbles and the thyme and the orange are all going to work really well for your aroma, so you're going to get all those like beautiful aroma flavors there. And what I've done is I've used similar flavors to pair with some almonds. So the almonds have been lightly roasted, and then I've flavored them with maple, a touch of cayenne, a little bit of you've got the recipe there. But if you wanted if there were any questions, feel free to message me about them. But that is my Louisville switch, and I'm really happy that I got the opportunity to speak with you about this hospitality today.
doing sensory appraisal, you kind of just go in with an open mind. You appraise each barrel for its unique character, and we have a quality code that allows us to identify if we see anything peachy, for instance, or chocolate. We have a system that allows us to code each one of those barrels for those unique characters when it's time for us to blend, and we know, okay, I need a little bit more woodiness, a little bit less fruitiness, and that's how we play with it. But on a day-to-day basis, we don't really coordinate our foods. We stay away from the heavier foods so that when we do our appraisals, we're giving it the best chance and the best score possible. But, you know, it has been fun to think about, like when you talked about making the peach cordial, like using tea and different cheeses, and the visitor center does a pairing, a cheese pairing with whiskey. So it's been nice to see how different foods and flavors and herbs pair with what you're doing in the lab. That's been really fun and interesting to see.
Hey, friends. That was awesome. Thank you, Aiden and Kyle. That was a really great presentation. And I'm eager to take home some of these ideas. And when we go back to the bar, I think they'll be really, really valuable tools for us. I know that the irreplaceable sense of hospitality will most certainly be a cornerstone to rebuilding business for bars and restaurants when the time comes. And as a former Georgian, I'm deeply in tune with the peach and whiskey world. So that's an excellent cocktail. And it certainly has a lot of food pairing opportunities. Now, I'd love to learn a little bit more about the art of whiskey blending, some of the innovations that are brewing at the Bulleit Distillery, and a little bit about Eboni's personal story and background. So, Miss Major, maybe you could share a little bit of that with us.
Yeah, so we just released the Blender Select #1 a couple months ago in March, and that was the first time that I was able to create a blend without having a gold standard, without having anything to match to. It was really an opportunity to pick out some of those really nice barrels and highlight those flavors and layer them to create this wonderful whiskey. But also we've launched the Bulleit Barrel program that also allows consumers to come in and get one single distillate of the 10 that make up Bulleit bourbon. Whenever I talk to people, you know, I've been with Diageo going on 5 years, but the past 2 years, I've gotten more involved in going out into the trade and the community to talk to the bartenders. And I think that's really what helped me personally identify with the brand, is being able to go out to these different markets and to see all of the people that continue to sell the brand. Because when you're here locally, your view may be a little bit different. So being able to go out into the world and connect with our consumers and bartenders gave me a different level of passion to come back into the lab to do everything that I continue to do now. And it gave me a little bit of charge for innovation and to see what we can try differently. We're always trying new things, whether it be distillate or maturate, that, you know, the consumers may or may not see depending on time. But one of the things about this job is you have to stick around for a long time. You don't get that immediate job satisfaction. You're guaranteed to wait 5-6 years to see, you know, the fruits of your labor. So I look forward to being able to getting back out in the market post-COVID to just really understand what I can do to continue to help the on-premise and see how far we can take, you know, Bulleit bourbon and just change that experience, because we see the world is changing, and I'm just ready to see how we can continue to evolve with our bartenders and consumers.
Wow, thanks so much. It's quite obvious that you have a background that really relates to bartenders, and it's nice to see how much your experience in the hospitality business translates to the liquid that actually goes into the bottle at Bulleit Distilling Company. I'd love to hand the floor over to Kyle. I know he's got a couple questions to ask Eboni, and then I've got a few questions for Eboni, Aiden, and Kyle from some of our audience members. So Kyle?
Yeah. I know I've been lucky enough to have you out here on the West Coast a few times and do a few blending labs with you. And I'm always so amazed that, you know, I think a lot of folks, you know, think that you're this mad scientist locked away in a lab, and to have you out there and see how good you are with people and how good you are with relaying that message of what you do and incorporating it with this side of things, you know, with the cocktails and all that stuff. I guess, you just spoke a little bit about it, but how would you explain when you do interact with folks, how do you take that back to the lab, and like, what are some of the things that in specific that you take back with you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is going out to travel is almost like a treat for me. It's almost like research for me to go out and see what are the trends, how have the menu placements changed, what are the different cocktails. Once I usually don't go into detail about it, but once I look at different menus and see how people are pairing Bulleit, if I start to see like some of the same ingredients being used across, it's okay, this is the direction that people are playing for this flavor. This is what they're looking for, this specific profile. And then you have to also look, is it seasonal? Is it regional? Because they have this crop here at a perfect time. And just looking at how that can change and evolve the bourbon, the base bourbon. It's really, there's a lot of different things you can do just with the liquids and how you can play with them and bring out those flavors, but also to see what direction our competitors are going, to see what other brands bartenders are interested in and why they are, and how we can evolve to continue to give them everything they're looking for, whether it be just sustainability around ingredients and what we're doing at the distillery, innovation, or just transparency about more of the process. I think that's the biggest thing about being able to go out into the community and talk, is that people are able to get access to a little bit more of the information, a little bit more of the process that they normally would have to wait until they came to Shelbyville to get. And by going out, they have a little bit more education to share. They're not just sharing their cocktail and what it took to make it. They're sharing the story of their experience of being in the blending lab with me and how they were able to learn more about the brand. So at that point, it goes beyond the cocktail. It goes to selling the brand and the people behind the brand to the consumers.
I'm super thankful every time you are able to come out and every time I get to hear you speak, because it really does bring a lot to life that I don't normally get to see, which is pretty amazing. I also, I think I've asked you before, but I'm sure everybody else would love to hear it as well. As, do you have any favorite cocktails or favorite bars that when you have been out that you love frequenting, or just if you're ever in town that you like going to?
I don't have favorite cocktails. I go for a smash anytime. Blackberry smash is like my simple go-to. I can't make a cocktail. Recently, since the launch of Blender Select, I've been addicted to brown derbies because I always have grapefruit and honey at home and never knew that was just a simple cocktail I can make. I think, I can't remember the name of, it was a place in Sacramento. It was actually at the hotel, and I was able to just sit at the bar and tell him what flavors I liked, if I wanted any like carbonation, and he just created just something amazing. And I think anytime I go to a bar, as you guys talked about the VIP experience, I am, as a newcomer, want to feel that VIP experience anytime I go into a bar, whether they've seen me before or not. And I think it's important that we not get hooked on the familiar faces, but just making sure that each consumer that walks in your bar feels like they get that treatment, no matter if you've seen them or not. I think that's what helps people, continue to return. And that's why I'm always open to going to new places, because most of the places that you guys take me automatically make me feel like that VIP from the moment I walk in.
I got a bunch of great questions, and cheers to our audience members who are staying tuned and asking some really, really valuable questions and keeping the chat alive. So a couple that I've already got here, like for Aiden, this one's for you. What do you look for in a bar to deliver an exceptional hospitality experience? Is there anything that really stands out?
Yeah, I think that it's genuine. Like the term hospitality is thrown around so much, but just having like good people there making drinks because they genuinely care, and they want you to have a good night. They want to be like part of that. And I think that's not kind of having like a tried and tested formula. That's being adaptable to what everybody needs. So keeping an open mind and just being genuine. Is that okay? Does that answer?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you gave a lot of really great responses earlier. Like one of my favorite things is just getting my water bottle refilled, like you mentioned, it's such a small little thing, let alone having your button sewn on. I would be so flattered by that. And Kyle, I know part of your job is to go around and visit lots of great bars, restaurants, hotels, clubs, and whatever. So you've kind of seen it all. Is there any like unforgettable experience that's blown you away and something that you'll never be able to get out of your mind?
Man, I'd like to say that there's one, to be honest, where I feel very, very, very lucky to be in the industry these days, because it's now not just one, it's which one beat out the last one, you know what I mean? As far as how people are. I know, how we met was very, it was impactful for me because, it's a smile. I mean, it truly is. It's a smile. It's being full of life, even if I know Aiden, mentioned it earlier is dropping the ego at the door, or whatever you might be going through at the door, because it's not always easy. But I think when you care about people and you care about that experience, I really, really do think it makes a huge difference. But I'd have to say, oh man, something recent that's happened was, I could tell someone was going through, a bad experience, and, you could tell that he was trying really hard to kind of check that at the door. But, once he started talking to me, and you could see it just slowly drift away of what was bothering him. And it was just natural for him to just, find the ways to make it better. And I think that to me was a really cool experience, because I know it wasn't easy. But I think, when it was naturally a part of what he does and how he feels, it really shined even more than it probably would have on another day.
That's awesome. And I'm sure that person still thinks about that. And it's those heartfelt moments that really do impact people. And, one of my favorite quotes is from, I think it was Angus Winchester or somebody else, but they said that nobody will remember you for what you gave them or did for them, but they'll remember you for the way that you made them feel. And I think that that's such an important part of our business. And it's something that, bartenders spend years trying to master that skill. It's not just making the drink or knowing what's in the food and whatnot, but understanding people's real emotions. I've got a couple other great questions from the audience here. Eboni, this one is for you. What are some things that make Bulleit whiskeys so unique? The bourbon, the rye, the blender select. What is it that as bartenders we should know about them?
I think what really makes us different are the blending team behind it, and the amount of care and just focus that's put into keeping these liquids consistent, to keeping the quality outstanding, and just not only that end portion of it, but everything we do from beginning to end. So not only the blending team, but everybody at the distillery that's ensuring quality. That to me is what sets Bulleit apart, is the quality, our commitment to quality, and how it's ingrained to glass. It's the moment the truck drives from the security gate until you get your glass at the bar. And that's really what sets us apart. And we have a lot of different flavors. Your rye is going to be very different, of course, from your 10-year-old, from your bourbon, even blender select. You get to see that using only certain pieces of Bulleit, you have completely different flavors. And I think that's what's so great, is that we have this huge portfolio of all these different liquids, and we have different ways to offer them to the bartenders, because they have so many different ways to offer that Bulleit to consumers in different types of cocktails. So having that robust, complex flavor profile allows us to really offer consumers different things that you may not get in using another brand, because it may be too sweet or it may be too spicy. And I think we play very well in that middle ground that appeals to everybody.
That's awesome. And it's great stuff that you can deliver to guests and, let them know that there is a really intelligent and thoughtful group of people behind the product. It's not just made in machine, but there are people putting their heart and soul and their artistic skills into the bottle as well.
No, absolutely. A lot of people come to the distillery and you see all of our high-tech gear. We absolutely are tech forward. We've invested in things that allow us to make bourbon better, but majority of our distiller operators that are there learned at Stitzel when I was working there in 2015 on the very small craft distillery. They learned it the handmade way. So we're just taking those same processes and bettering it for the production. So it's really good for everybody to see the amount of work that goes into it beginning to end.
That's awesome. And I have a follow-up question for you from my friend Bobby. He wonders when we can expect to see a Blender Select #2 being released. Are you working on that now?
You know, the gears are moving. I'm thinking about some things, seeing where there's some inventory, having conversations with innovation and Andrew to see where we think we could go. I always have the wild and crazy ideas. I hope to see it. I think we'll see. As long as the demand is there, we will deliver. I'll say that.
That's awesome. And back to being behind the bar, I've got one lined up from my friend Megan. And Aiden, this is for you, but anybody else, please feel free to chime in. And we were wondering, when you're working with a new or even a seasoned bartender, and they have a sense of entitlement or maybe a chip on their shoulder, what can you do to inspire them to step up their hospitality game and be a little bit more humble?
Yeah, I think that's a really tough one. And for me, like, hospitality is like fun and it's enjoyable. And so like maybe people learn through osmosis with you. You know, if you're the one, if you're working with someone else and you're the one that's constantly getting people coming up back to them to get their drinks because you're giving them amazing service, then A, you're going to be making more money, but B, you know, they're like, so if I do this, then I can start to be better at my job. It's really tough because motivating people, everybody has different motivations, you know. But I think just by leading from example is important.
I feel the same way. You're never going to get it across somebody if you just tell them to be nicer, but to kill them with kindness. And if they say or do something that is unprofessional or they make somebody else feel like they're below them, I just ignore it. I don't pay it any attention. And eventually that sort of entitlement will disintegrate. And if you're working in a place that does have good camaraderie and everybody's on the same page with hospitality, that person will eventually feel like they have to either join that team or walk away from it. Even if the money's good, even if they're doing the job by the book correctly. I've noticed the best bars that I've worked in or just been a guest at, there is a general sense of camaraderie and the way that everybody on the staff treats the guests is consistent throughout the entire team. So just keep pushing for that and get everybody else that is maybe a little bit more malleable to be kind and friendly, and the person that might be lagging behind will eventually catch up.
And also, Andrew, to build on that, anybody that's been in this industry for the past, anywhere from 10 to 20 years, they probably saw the era of the entitled bartender, where that was almost trending to be entitled here in the U.S. And I think it was that sense of community and how everybody changed. And what you were just saying is, everybody started going towards the non-entitlement and the treating everybody with respect and that hospitality forward mentality. And I think that, it shows you how powerful that is as a team or as a community in this industry. So it definitely works to do that.
Most certainly. And I think that because we're in these unprecedented times right now, nobody expected the bar and restaurant industry to have sunk into this hole that we're in, and it's a struggle for a lot of people, but I know that we're a really positive, forward-thinking group of bartenders and leaders and servers and everybody in between, especially folks on the brand team. So I think that once the lockdown is over and everybody's able to go back to their bars, we're going to be super successful again. but I have no doubt in my mind that the hospitality standards might be a little different. Kyle or Aiden, do either or both of you have any views on what the changes might look like?
Oh man, I think there's definitely going to be changes, like you said. I think that, it's going to be up to us to communicate with each other now more than ever, to share some of the things that are working or that aren't working, implementing some of those things to make folks feel more comfortable. Really, really trying to find out, one, what is legal and what you're able to do, and also, when it comes to the hospitality side of how can we enhance that and make it so it doesn't seem like too much of a transition, and it makes them feel, nostalgic in the way of, they can still feel like it's a place they love to go, and it doesn't feel too, out of the norm. What about you, Aiden?
Yeah, I think those are all really, really great points, and I think that when things, when our bars and restaurants do start to reopen, there's an onus on us in the industry to kind of, make people feel super comfortable at the venues, and it is going to be totally different, but we need to embrace those changes as employees at work in the venues, and then it allows our guests to embrace them as well, people, maybe have been out of work for a while because of what's going on, so just making sure that they feel like they've got value for money in what their experience is, and that's, good service, kind of focusing in on the things that Kyle mentioned, and just good quality products.
I think that's a good point, and actually it reminds me that we're going to have several different seminars throughout this week that do talk about profitability and ways to maximize value for guests, as well as being efficient and cost effective for bars. And those are going to be really hot topics as we come back out of this foreclosure, of the closure of bars and restaurants. And, continuing with one of our previous questions about fostering hospitality, I got a great question here. And one of our viewers is wondering, even when we're personally doing our best to be super friendly and convivial, how can we increase the entire team's buy-in to foster this culture of genuine hospitality? And I'll actually lead this off with an example from the bar that I work in. It actually reminds me of like a Japanese restaurant where anybody that opens the door and comes in, the entire chef and service team, they all stop what they're doing and kind of shout at them and say hello. And at our bar in London, we don't shout across the bar, but somebody, whoever's the closest to the door, sprints to the front door and greets the newcomer immediately with a warm smile, letting them know that we've either got a seat now or we'll have one in just a few minutes. And every person that leaves gets the same treatment. Somebody or multiple people always say goodbye to them. And I don't think that you need any fancy equipment or super high-end spirits or whatever in order to give excellent service like that. And because we've made it a standard, every single person in the bar does that. Do you guys have any examples of way that you foster this teamwork?
I was going to say, Eboni, I know you have a lot of high-tech equipment and all that stuff there, but how's that mantra whenever you're in the lab? Is there? I know your personality and Andrew's and all that stuff. Is there? How does that translate over into the blending side of things? Do you guys feel that way there too? I know on the bar side, like Andrew was saying, there's a lot of things that I can think of, but how does that work on your side of things?
I think for hospitality, anytime we have a group that comes by or wants to pop into the lab, if we don't have like super secret stuff out that day, we're always willing to let them pop in and say hello or just have a discussion. But we sit in a fishbowl. Everybody can see what we're doing all day. So we have to be kind. We have to, wave and smile. But I think what you said is really true. As we come out of this, people want to feel connected. Something as simple as a hello or goodbye, just going the extra mile to make people feel like you see them is really what's going to change how we interact with everybody.
Absolutely. I know one of the things I was going to say as well is leaving them with something to come back with, whether it be a question or try this, or let us know what you think the next time you come in, is kind of, an open-ended a question or experience that they can bring back and share with you again. So you're kind of welcoming them back, as well as, sending them off with a smile.
And making them feel that they're a part of whatever your journey is. It's not just hello and goodbye, but just making sure that their input, or something as simple as how they like the drink, or anything, recommended changes or anything, just listening and making them feel a part of that experience is key.
That's awesome. And again, people don't forget those experiences because they felt so welcomed and like they were part of the program, even though it was just for an hour or so at the visitor center or in somebody's cocktail bar. I had another question that we're just going to quickly say hello to. It's about using tea in cocktails, and that's a wonderful question, but we actually have a seminar. Aiden will be on it on Wednesday, and it's all about tea blending using whiskeys and other spirits. So please join us for that one, as we're going to go really far in depth, talk about the use of teas and their history with cocktails and punches and things like that, and also how good they can be as a replacement for wine at the dinner table when you've got tea and spirits blended together. So I'm sorry we're not answering that today. But in a similar sense, I was wondering, first for Eboni and then maybe Aiden and Kyle, since you guys are mixing Bulleit whiskey with a lot of other modifiers, our friend was wondering what's the most common or useful way of manipulating the flavor or aroma of the liquid. I think this is pretty open-ended because it could be making a cocktail like your peach highball there, or maybe just adding a splash of water. So what are your opinions on that, Eboni?
Yeah, in the lab, we're manipulating the flavor only by blending the different characteristics that we see. Or, there's not anything added or removed. What we're doing is balancing and layering flavors. But when we do our appraisals, we do them at 20% ABV, and that interaction with the water and alcohol brings out a lot more notes that you normally wouldn't see. So as a bartender, that's something you can play around with, just balancing out your acids, or how sweet you want to drink. There's a lot of different things that you can try. The herbs that you use as a garnish really change the flavors that come out. I just think having an open mind and an open book and just playing with it, because everybody's palate is completely different. My combinations may be different than Kyle's, or you, Andrew, or you, Aiden. It's just having that open mind and just playing with it like it's a puzzle piece, just moving it around and seeing what you can do.
I'll let Aiden and Kyle continue that, but it reminds me of the way that I teach people to develop a new cocktail is like, have your end goal in mind. And when you're tasting the spirit neat or with a splash of water, write down all your tasting notes and say you're going for that like unmistakable dill herbaceousness, or you want to highlight the nice sweet vanilla and caramel corn flavors. I use other ingredients that complement my target goal and the flavors in the spirit itself that I'm really trying to highlight.
I think that, as you said, Andrew, as long as you've got like a goal for what you're trying to do, we're lucky in this kind of day and age of cocktail bars. There's a lot of equipment, and there's like a ton of information as well, So I think just like anything, just kind of assess all the information that you've got in front of you and kind of make decisions from there. Like we're talking about the tea presentation on Wednesday, and just to extract tea, there are hundreds of different ways that you can do it. So just being dialed into reading information.
And I think one of my favorite ways to do that is I work backwards. I'll take whatever the core base spirit that I'm going to use, in this case Bulleit, and usually Bulleit, and I will find the certain profiles, whether it's smelling it and tasting it by itself, and if there's a nutty flavor or a fruity flavor or whatever it may be, and if it reminds me of something specific, then I will try to find something like that as far as a modifier or an ingredient that is similar, and enhance it almost to bring out that smell or flavor even more. I have one of my counterparts, Lana out of Texas, just infused a whiskey with Bulleit with peanuts, and it was really cool to see because she kind of did it both. She infused the peanuts with whiskey and then the whiskey with peanuts, and she was able to really make a cocktail after that was phenomenal, but it really is, it's based on each perspective, it's based on that person's palate and what they smell, and once they're able to get that and extract that, I think they're able to make something great.
That's awesome. And that's most definitely like the chef's viewpoint, because a lot of bartenders tend to pile like 8 or 10 ingredients in. You read them on a menu and you don't always taste everything. You're wondering like, where is that tonka bean? Or I don't taste any passion fruit. And when you're thinking like a chef, if something's going to be in the dish, you sure as heck better taste it. And it's got to be an explosive flavor and very noticeable. And if it's a flavor that you find in the whiskey, turn it up to 11 and make it delicious and be proud of those flavors that you're trying to put in the glass.
Completely agree.
So that was the about the end of our hour here. I appreciate everybody that sent in questions, and I do apologize to the folks that we did not get to answer their question. But please don't hesitate to contact us on Instagram or Facebook at World Class US, and we'd be happy to follow up with as much information as possible. I'd like to thank Eboni, Kyle, and Aiden. That was such an awesome kickoff to our week of inspiring webinars. And just know all the presentations and tools that we broadcast this week will soon become available to viewers that wish to review them later. Again, you can follow us on World Class US on Instagram or Facebook, and we'll give updates when those are available. I also recommend that you sign up for the Diageo Bar Academy newsletter so you can be the first to find out how to access the slides and toolkits and things like that. And with that said, we're going to take a few minutes break to line up our next presenters. So stay tuned in this Zoom room. It's the same room that we're going to be in all week long. And we'll be live at 3:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with our next session on how to shoot a tequila cocktail featuring Don Julio Tequila. In the meantime, check out theworldclassclub.com to see scheduled community weeks that are happening all around the world. And as always, don't forget to enjoy your drinks responsibly. I'm Andrew Meltzer. I'll see you shortly.
Thanks, Andrew.
Everyone.
Bye, guys.